to talk to you about an interview Jordan Peterson was giving with Matt Ridley. Now, I think Jordan Peterson was supposed to be interviewing Matt Ridley, but it was more like they were having a conversation, because Peterson was talking almost as much as Ridley, if not more. And that did irritate me a bit, I do have to say. I wanted to hear what Ridley had to say. But they were talking about the politicisation of scientific journals. Now, we all know that the sociological subjects have already been taken over by weird theories and political theories and woke theories and, I don't know, what's the word? Oh, intersectional theories, that's the one. But they all said it was never going to hit STEM, and now it has done. And so I want to tell you why it's hit STEM and what I think can be done about it, because I think something can be done. But meanwhile, I'll tell you of the example that Ridley gave. He said that, completely unrelated to what he was talking about with Peterson, he happened to be, he's a writer, or he was a scientist and a working scientist, and now he's a writer about science, and he was doing research into the end of the last ice age and how it affected the British Isles. Now, he said that all the papers he read that have been published recently, they all had elements of politicisation in them. I don't know quite what it would be, but I'm guessing it had to do with climate change and bringing in ideas of climate change. And he said that the best papers, the most scientific, the ones that just looked at the facts without comment, just went through the facts, were the ones written in the 90s. After that, everything started to go downhill. And he was discussing this with Peterson. So what I want to do is tell you why this should happen, because I know exactly how it happened. And I'm surprised that Ridley didn't bring this up in the interview. And it's this: assume that you are a geologist and you're writing a paper about an insect that's been found somewhere, the first insect that's been found on top of the KT boundary, the charred layer that came from the death-dealing meteorite or comet or whatever it was that hit the planet and got rid of the dinosaurs. So you're writing this paper about this insect, and from the existence of the insect, you're inferring that there were certain plants growing at that time. You send this article to, and I'm going to make a journal up, the Geological Quarterly. I don't know if such a journal exists. If it does, no, I'm not talking about you. I've just made up a theoretical Geological Quarterly. So how does the Geological Quarterly decide which papers it's going to publish? Remember, how many articles can it publish? 20, depending on the size of them. And it's coming out once every 3 months. So there is a limit. Out of 100 papers that might be submitted, the Geological Quarterly might be able to publish 25. Possibly not even, possibly 10 or 15. So the Geological Quarterly will have to filter out the papers it reckons aren't of interest to its subscribers. Ah, right, right. While I'm talking about subscribers, I will say that I'm Granniopteryx, and I am on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. All the links to the other channels are in the description. Please like this video. Yeah, click that like button right now. Please share it, and please subscribe. That's what reminded me. And when you do subscribe, check, if you're on YouTube especially, that your subscription is still active, because subscriptions drop, I've been told. Yeah, what else? Also, yes, I'm on Twitter, Gab and Parler. And on Twitter, Gavin Parler, I let you know when I've uploaded a new video. Again, if you're on YouTube, sometimes you don't get those notifications. So like, subscribe, share, and you can help me financially, buy me a coffee, or there are a couple of other links. All of this information is in the description. Right, let's carry on with Geological Quarterly. So you've got Geological Quarterly, and perhaps the editor, if it's a small magazine or if it's a bigger one, any one of a number of employees, look at the various papers and decide which ones are total rubbish, which ones are possibles, and which ones are absolutely definitely. Well, obviously, if the person reading it has an interest in insects, that's going to get read first. On the other hand, if that reader has an interest more in recent geology or in the fraught subject of climate change or CO2 levels or methane levels or vegetarianism or whatever, then those ones are going to go to the top of the list. So let's say that they're more interested in climate change. Your paper is on insects. They're already at a disadvantage. And let's assuming that your paper actually gets sort of stuffed in at the end. Then it has to go to a reviewer, or sometimes 2 or 3 reviewers. That's what we call peer reviewing. They find people who are involved in that area of expertise, and they are asked to look over it and decide whether the paper's total rubbish or not. Now, if the person it's sent to is not interested particularly in insects, they've been done to death. On the other hand, if the reviewer thinks that there should have been more of an emphasis on the change in climate that caused this insect to disappear a bit later, and you're not mentioning that, they're saying, well, your paper's lacking in something, they might just dismiss it out of hand, or they might send it back to you and say, rewrite it and add the climate element to it. Do you see? So what happens is you have gatekeepers who have a certain idea about what should be published, and you're going to get a journal that has the same message in different formats all the way along. And this is how stuff gets inserted into the STEM subjects. Now, normally I talk about problems to which there is actually no solution, or that I couldn't think of a solution. But in this case, I do know that there is a solution. It's to do with the university system. Now, I'm not going to go into the economics of it. It's to do with the economics of the universities as well. I'm going to concentrate on one particular thing. You see, in the British university system, pre-university system, you can specialise from a very early age. You have to do a broad spectrum on your first national exams, which used to be called the GCEs or the GCSEs or whatever. There's a broad spectrum. You've got to do English and maths and possibly history and, a wide spread of subjects. But when you take your A-levels, you can actually just specialise. So if, for instance, you want to be a mathematician and you would take 3 or 4 math GCSEs, you also have to take English, as I say, physics, maybe chemistry, maybe literature, history, something like that. You've got to do this list. But when you get to your A-levels, you can do 6, 7, 8 A-levels in different branches of mathematics. You are already specialising from the age of 16 or 17. So when you get to university, you're a mathematician and only a mathematician. You might read other books, but you don't have any really general knowledge. And then you go to a maths department and you just do maths there. And this was considered to be over-specialising. You weren't dealing with the whole person, and it was considered bad. So I think they've introduced some other stuff in. But in American universities, it's always been the case that you have to spread out. You go to university after graduating from high school, and then you want to do maths, but half of your subjects might be maths modules, while the other half you have to take other subjects. So what other subjects are you going to take? Biology, physics, the history of German literature, for which you have to learn German? No, you're going to take easy subjects that don't take up much time, fun stuff. So you do a lot of Sociology 101 type courses. That's what you do. And there are many first degree university students who are then getting woke ideas from half-baked Sociology 101 courses given by some associate professor or adjunct professor, or even just lecturer on whose PhD the ink is barely dry, and whose knowledge of the world is theoretical at best. So of course these students are going to get woke ideas. Sometimes they might reject them, but these ideas will be there at the corner of their minds, so that when they start to climb the greasy pole of mathematical academia, they still have some of these woke ideas in the backs of their minds. And sometimes, especially if they're not particularly good academics, or if they're older academics who have dried up a bit, they'll go into administration and keep their jobs that way. But they will be applying not their maths, but these half-baked ideas they had from their first degree years. And this is something that should be discouraged, in my opinion. So this modular system, as nice as it is, and I benefited very, very much from that, but I was doing at the time literature and psychology, and I had other stuff like Sumerian history at Stanford. It was great fun, and I enjoyed it immensely. And it gave me a very broad education and a knowledge of a whole lot of stuff. And maybe for my type of discipline, that was good. But it's not good for maths. And in my opinion, any STEM subject, physics, even geology, geography, well, maybe not so much geography, physics, geology, computer science, maths, they shouldn't be taking these modules at all. They should be specialising. And maybe we can think of others as well. All right, well, that's my solution to woke subjects getting into STEM studies. And yeah, more specialisation, I'm afraid. Less of the whole person and more of the focused scientist, I'd say. Right, well, yep, that's it. Somebody pass this on to Jordan Peterson, please. Till next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.